Hello everyone. I think it's around 7:30. I don't know, I don't have a clock in here. But I am so excited to talk to you guys about this. This is something so we're going to talk about nature tables today, and it's something that has really transformed our relationship with nature. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it. And I'm sorry if it's a little bit dark in here. This is the only time that I could do this tonight. So I put a little light up, and I'll try to bring the camera over and show you a little closer. But this right here is our nature table. And so I'll just start with what is a nature table. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with what one is. But I learned about it, I'd say about a year and a half ago, and we've been doing our nature table for about a year. And it is, I believe it's the concept is Waldorf inspired. I love so much of what, the Waldorf philosophy is about. We're not strictly Waldorf, but definitely there's some influence there. So if you want to learn more, I think that's a great resource, is to, look it up through that avenue. But in the simplest terms, it's just a collection of nature items that you display. I choose to display these in my daughter's playroom. So that seems to me the most natural place for us to put it. But that's a very simplistic version of what a nature table is. It's really so much deeper than that, and that's really what I want to try to convey today, and hopefully I do a good job of it. There's so much to talk about with it that it's actually kind of hard for me to even wrap my mind around it, or like begin with it, because it is really all encompassing in some senses, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But okay, so what I see the nature table as is a story, as a living story, and it's really a story of the seasons. We try to have it, and that's one of the characteristics of a nature table, is that it reflects the seasons. Now you can do that with intent. You can go ahead and clean their table, make sure that you bring in items that reflect the season, like really with a lot of intent. Or what I've seen happen for us is that it just naturally happens because we're bringing things in, as we're out there, and as we're out there, the seasons are changing. So it happens very naturally, and that feels good. But of course, I do go through and kind of put away or compost the items that, I'll just kind of not on a schedule, but I'll just kind of do it as I have time. I try not to get stressed about the table, because I think that there's something about the fluidity of it, and just it feeling like a nice rhythm. So yes, it's a story of, for us, the season that we're in, and reflects that rhythm. So, the other thing it's a story of our connections with other people. So we have friends that know about our nature table, and they will give us little things to put on it. So, and friends and family. So for example, my brother knew this is actually kind of a little bit off season, because the morels aren't out right now, but there are a lot of mushrooms that we've been into lately that have been popping up. So my brother saw this morel mushroom carving, and he thought, oh, this would be perfect for your nature table. So it's a story of the connections that we have. And when we are out with our friends or family and we find something, and we bring it back, it's a story of that day, and it's a story of our time together. So, and also the places that we go, like if we go on a trip or just take a little adventure, it's a story of the places that we've been. So let's see what else. And then it's a story of my husband and I, our relationship with our daughters, which for me is one of the most important things that it does. We have it's just the questions that we've explored together, the moments that we've had, they're reflected here in what's here. So, like for example, we recently had to process 30 roosters. Yes, 30 roosters. It was crazy. And I asked that we actually had the Amish in our area process them, and I asked them, they looked at me like I was crazy, to keep the feathers because they're so beautiful. And so we all went to the Amish farm, and we were we were involved in that process together. So that's part of that story, and it's part of that experience. I kept the feathers, and then they're right here. So for me, it's one of the strengths of a nature table is, or one of the unique things about it is that there's context there. So I haven't, for example, not that you can't do this, I'm just kind of, explaining to you what has worked for us and what brings life and energy to this in a way that, in a way that's unique. I wouldn't randomly go to Hobby Lobby and buy some feathers and put them on this table. I might do that for crafts or something like that, but that would not really deepen the story. So I hope that makes sense. Again, that's my preference. So let's see, and it's also a story of the art and the experiments that we've made together. So I'll put little things that we've done. So we recently painted this volunteer squash that was in our yard, and so I'll put that there, and it'll be just a little reminder, because I love that about children, that they're in and out, and they're just like the water, they're there and they're gone, and they remember some things and they don't remember other things, and I think that's wonderful. But this is just little tiny reminders that I put here for her too. So what else? It's also, so that was all how I was talking about how it's a story, but it's also a bridge. It's the bridge for us to the outside in a way that almost nothing else is. It's the way that it tethers us to the outside. I feel like it could be such a powerful tool for classrooms. I can't believe that all classrooms do not have a giant nature table, because it just brings it in a way that it really blows my mind. So that's the other thing that it does. And like I was saying, it's alive. It reflects where we're at right now. It reflects where my daughter's at too. And as you could see, so I hope this isn't too weird. I have no perspective anymore. I don't know what's weird. I don't know what's not weird. But she's loves bones right now. She's the bone collector. And she loves drawing on bones. So we have a lot of that on the table, because that's what she's into. So you can really just get a little glimpse of what she's having fun with. She loved, we actually dipped these leaves in wax the other day, and it worked really well. But this was one of our projects, and she got kind of obsessed with that, and so did I. So then we tried to preserve some of our zinnias with wax, and there's a method to it. This was not as easy, but they turned out I feel like they turned out really beautiful. So I just put a couple on here, and she actually put one right here. She wanted to, she loves the name of the tree is kind of slipping my mind. Oh, black locust. She loves the black locust. It's hard to see. I'll show you in a second. But anyway, so I just took a couple and I threw it in the water. So it's a reflection of where she's at. I can take a glance and I can kind of remember it myself. So that's sort of some high level ideas of how we use it. For us, I'll tell you also what it's not. It's not a oh, I'm sorry, Claudine, you can't view. Maybe refresh your browser or try a different browser, and maybe that would work. Sorry. And Dell says she loves the ideas. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So yeah, if you have any ideas, just put them in there. This is just sort of, there's so much more to learn. This is just a few things we've picked up. So what it's not for us, and again, this is how we use it. You do not have to use it this way. I've seen other tables where they would have books and they would create bigger invitations to play right on the table. or invitations to make art, you know, and create right there. The reason I don't use it too much like that is because number one, it's not a huge space. So it might like, it might decimate the table if we did that. So that, but that's not really the main reason I don't use it that way. Like, so I, for example, here's like a little loose parts tray we have. I probably wouldn't keep that there because I have that in a different area of the room. And if I have other invitations and other, you know, things like that in the other areas of the room that have been inspired by something, how I've seen her interact here. So this is kind of our center, and then we take it out because I feel like it would kind of break up the flow and the story of what we have going here. Now again, that's me. I do mini ones. I try to make it very sensory. So if I see something that she loves outside, like I said here, I'll bring it in. She was playing with black locusts in the water that was in the chair in a little pool. And so I just brought that in. That was inspired by her. And, you know, she can play in the water. It's sensory. And then she didn't, this was more me. These are our black walnut tree. We have a black walnut tree, and these smell. I don't know if you've ever smelled black walnuts. This is what they come in, and here I'll show you the actual black walnut. But here, this is what is inside, and they smell like limes. So you know, you can smell them just sitting here. So I try to make it sensory. So let's see. What else? So it's not. So those are some things that it's not. That I don't use it that way. But I do have a little things she can interact with. But if it's a huge, more involved thing, I want to give her space. I want her to really be able to get into that. And it's hard to do that here. Okay. So for setting it up, and I'll give you a closer look of this, like an aerial view, in a minute. Don't overthink this. Just get anything. It could be super small. This was our old foot, like a little shoe holder. It didn't work for shoes because, of course, the shoes went everywhere. That the shoes are just crazy everywhere now on the floor. But just keep it simple. It could just be a little. It could even. I've seen just ledges. I've seen trays. So if you have you know what, I'm gonna go grab a tray that I think would be awesome for it. Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay, so this is a tray. You know, you could just keep it on this little tray. It has these little legs. I got this at Goodwill, but I know they sell them for like $10 on Amazon. So that would be great. It just, I would say, just keep it in. Try to keep it in at the same spot all the time if you can, because again, you're creating a center. You're creating a story. You're creating a reference point, and so there's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of power in it. If you just, it's just like a safe spot in their room. They just always know that this is their place. And so, yeah, just set it up. Don't stress about it. And how do you start? Just take a walk. And, you know, you can even say, I think I remember how we first started it, just went on a walk and said, oh, we could use this for our nature table. And she said, you know, what's the nature table? And I said, well, I'll show you when we get in. And we sort of got a few treasures there, brought them in, and started our little table. So it just took one walk, and we just kept it going. Just bring it into their vocabulary, bring it into their world. And now my daughter just does it herself. She just goes out and says, oh, I'm going to put this on my nature table. Or she'll grab something from her nature table and say, you know, give it to a friend and say, I want to give this to him or her from our nature table. So she's got it now. It's in her, it's just in her, which is pretty cool. That's like the whole, you know, that's the most exciting thing for me, is that I can't believe it. I actually can't believe she's referencing it without me, and that's the whole point. So some tips. I would say, like I said, just start. Now, this is going to get trashed. You just need to know that right now. It's going to just get destroyed. You know, they're going to play with it. Kids are going to play with it. She's going to play with it. She's going to bring stuff in, and that's okay. It's okay for it to get messy. You know, I do tend to try to tidy up. Obviously, not every day. That's crazy. But I do try to keep it you know, manageable. So it can kind of, you know, I kind of clean this stuff out a little bit, but don't stress too much the mess. That's part of it. Things are going to break down. We brought in a mushroom that the whole back, it was leaning against the wall, the whole back disintegrated. I didn't know, and it was like in a pile on the ground. That's just a part of it. So let's see. I would say tell other people who are in your world that this is what you're doing. When they come in, you know, it could just be casual. Tend to get pretty intense with the nature table. Like they walk in the door and I'm like, come see our nature table. But you probably could be more relaxed than me and just, you know, tell them, and they'll start getting involved too. They'll start bringing stuff in. And we also got people, we have this connection with Nature Pal Exchange that I was talking about. And they, the last Monday, I'm calling these wild chats. So the last wild chat, I talked to you about the Nature Pal Exchange, and so I put that on right here on our part of what they gave us is here. So that, you know, that's a little reminder again, but that's another connection to other people, telling other people, working with other people. This is can be from a center, but you know, you can go out from there. And let's see. I always have a little place on it. Not a little place. She can do anything she wants. This is hers. She can bring in what she wants, and she does. But there's always one basket that is hers that I do not touch. I do not clean unless it's, you know, there's like larvae in there or something like that, which there has been before. I just, yeah, I just have, this is hers. So I think that's important. She has her little treasures in here. So that's another tip. Yeah, and then this has been big for me. I have my own. I have my own nature table. I have my own little, and she knows that I value that. So I talk about my nature table. I talk about what I want to put on it. And that's been good. It's another connecting point for us. It's another thing that we get excited about. So, oh yeah, and just a couple little things. Well, let me give you an overview. Let me get you an overview so you can kind of see, because I'm going to talk about a few other things. So let's see if you can see this little dish, because I want to talk about this. Let's see. Okay. Oh, this was a gift that my friend from the city, she brought us, she's a taxidermist, and she brought us a pigeon tail. So you never know what you're going to get. I mean, you really don't. So this is our goldenrod. Here, let me pull this down. We dyed a silk scarf from the goldenrod. So I left this here, you know, again, part of our story. Something might be beautiful, but for me, what's more beautiful is building in that context. And I think that's what makes these special than different than anything else. Just having a context, and you know, like this was the bark beetles ate through this, and Cora, my daughter, found this, and we just started painting the paths of where the bark beetles went. And I just put this on her, and she loved this. This was such an awesome day for us. That was such a fun thing that we did together. So yeah, that's our, oh, and sorry, just a couple more things. I hope this is useful. If you want something specific, I'm seeing a couple comments or questions and comments, and I'll definitely go answer those in just a minute. But yes, I do something, just kind of a little thing for between her and I. In this dish, I just always put something a little secret or a little special, just like a little surprise. So I put a little wishbone from one of our chickens that we processed in here. So that's just something that I do that I think she likes it. And yeah, I have here, I'll pick this up. I have a mirror because I think the mirror brings in the metaphor of the reflection, and also it's really nice for kids to be able to work on mirrors and see themselves and things. So I always have just a tiny little investigation area. It's a little magnifying glass and something that has a lot of feel, or has a really interesting texture, something that would look really neat under the microscope. Something that's, out and about outside now. So that's that's pretty much our table. Here's a few scarves. Again, this is kind of the Waldorf influence. This is the only really loose part that I have. I mean, these are all loose parts, but doesn't have an element of the story I was kind of telling you about. And these have been amazing. Just having these scarves, they're just from Goodwill for like 25 cents each. I mean, these have been everything from spaghetti to train tickets to, I mean, that's it. So, yeah, so let's look at a few of your questions. Let's see, let me look. Sorry about that. So Yannick's asking me, so I've always dreamed of having one, but my son will grab at everything and spread everything around the house. Okay, so I have a 1-year-old also. This is my admission. This is tough. This is tough with my 1-year-old. But we've done it. Spreading it around the house, this stuff does get brought out into the house. And, I don't have an easy answer for you because I'm not going to lie and tell you that this doesn't take extra effort. It does. But I believe it's worth it. For me, I would rather have this than have a whole bunch of other, okay, I got rid of tons of toys so that I could do this, if that makes sense. Because there is some effort involved. But I think it's your level of comfort. I've just been okay with a lot of it being spread around, and it doesn't get as spread around as much now as it did in the beginning. There's definitely an adjustment period, and work with what's comfortable for you. Just take some away. If this is too much and you're like, this is not worth it, this is stressing me out too much, that'll take the joy away from it. So just have 3 things and see how that goes. That's what I would do. Just try to keep the joy. If this becomes this stressful thing where the Legos get to, where you've just cleaned up and then you hear the Legos. I saw something like that today, a meme, like you just clean up and then you hear the sound of the Legos being spilled all over. If it's like that, don't do this, because this is about, it's about your relationship. It's not just about them. It's not just about you. So it has to have that joyful component. And I would just reduce down to the amount that works for you. I hope that helps. Okay, Sarah, thank you for saying that. Do you leave your nature table within reach? Yep, I do. I don't think it would work for us if I didn't. And then I'd kind of have to watch my 1-year-old climbing up. I would be afraid she would climb up to get things. So, how old is my little one? She's 1. She's just over 1. Yes, I understand, Yannick. And you know what? I'll think about this even more, like specifically with you, and I'll come up with some other solutions, and we can work together, because I think it's definitely worth it. So how often do I change it? So I really focus on the seasons, and we celebrate the solstices and the equinox. So yeah, and the seasonal shifts. So I focus on the seasons, because within the season, that's the easiest answer. Just the seasons. Keep it simple. Don't, this stuff, the more complicated it gets, especially with little kids, it's like the less likely that you're going to do it. Within the season, there's so much change and there's so much variety that your table will change. You will see, it's just beautiful. Like, you'll see the table change, and like the flowers will change. You'll just see it all reflected here. So I would say just change it 4 times, but it's going to change more than that, because you'll see things, and however many times you go out, that's how many changes you're probably going to see, because as you get into the rhythm of it, you're probably going to bring in something every time. We had moss growing here. Yeah, having something that's alive, I think, is really important. I always try to bring in some fresh flowers, something, during the moss, just something that's alive is really important. So, let's see, Danielle sorts it out. Now, can you guys see other people's comments, or because I just want to make sure that you understand or you hear the question. Let's see. I'll just read it just in case. My eldest 5 values the nature table so much that he sorts it all out when okay, so you can. My middle and youngest get into it. Seeing their big brother place importance. Yeah, yes, having the oldest. I mean, it's amazing how much faster my youngest has gotten into the rhythm of this. You know, because my oldest has passed it on. And she always says the nature table, the nature table. So there's a distinction there that I know that my youngest is already picking up on. So that's really super cool to see. Um, okay, I think that's all. Let me make sure I have all your questions. Can you link to the wax method? Sure, I definitely will. Leah of Your Natural Learner had put up a link to, she had done the tutorial and she inspired me to do this. I'll put hers up. And I'll also, in the description of this live, I'll tell you some tips, some things that we learned while we were doing. But it is awesome. I'm a freak about this wax. I'm dipping too many things. It's crazy. So you just be careful because you will not be able to stop dipping things into this wax. So okay, let me double check. Anything else? Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? If I didn't answer something, just go ahead and put it up under here, and I'll definitely, after the event, I'll answer it, or tomorrow if I can. But thank you all so much. And that I was kind of nervous because this is just one of my favorite things. I hope I did it justice, or just at least gave you a little bit of inspiration to start it. And the group Outschooling is almost up to 500 people in like under 2 weeks. So I just want to thank you all. This has been incredible, and I know it's only the beginning of our journey together. If you all know of anybody who would be interested, just invite them in, or anybody that you would like to see on these wild chats, someone who you would like me to interview or bring in. I'm working on all that, on the technology to bring in another person for you guys to be able to see them live. So it's just taking me a little bit of time. But I know we're going to have if I can work it out, we're going to have a really special guest next Monday. So thank you all for showing up, and thank you all for being here. And have a good night. Okay, bye.